Welcome to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and on today's show, I have with me Barbara Elinesky. Thanks for being on the show, Barb.
Oh, my pleasure, Sharla. Thank you.
So on One Woman, we always interview amazing women and have them share their stories and their lives with us, so we really appreciate you being on the show today. And, you know, we tape here in Thunder Bay, but not everybody that I interview is from Thunder Bay or that their journey didn't start there. So yours actually started in Quebec.
Yep, I'm born and raised in Montreal. I am bilingual.
Nice.
And yeah, I've moved around a lot in my lifetime. I moved from Quebec. I moved to Timmins, Ontario. We lived there for 13 years. Moved to Sweden, lived there for 3 years, moved back to Quebec for a few years, and then made it to Thunder Bay.
Wow. So let's talk about kind of Barb as a little girl. And so you're growing up in Quebec. Did you have kind of a typical childhood and that kind of stuff? Or?
No. Actually, my parents owned a grocery store, dépanneur they call them in Quebec. And I used to work at the cash, work in the store at a young age because that was a family business. So I can debone a pork shoulder.
Wow.
Because my dad, because I'm Polish, my dad went and he used to make kielbasa. Yeah. So I learned all that and yeah.
Wow. So you were right into like learning trades right from the
get-go. Right from a young age, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And at what age did you move then from Quebec to Timmins?
I was, I would say in 1985. That we moved. I had just graduated from nursing school.
Oh, okay.
And I was a nurse. So yeah, we moved to Timmins and I worked at St. Mary's Hospital for a few years and then we started a family. So I was probably in my 20s, 24.
Right. And why nursing? Was that always something that was in your heart that you wanted to pursue, or was it more of like what women did back then, is you either were a teacher or a nurse? Well,
that's pretty much the story. I did a questionnaire with a guidance counselor in high school. And she said, okay, fill this out. And she goes, you could be either a secretary or a nurse. And then when I did the questionnaire, it says, you'd make a really good nurse. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I was a nurse that had a really weak stomach. So every time something was gross, yeah, I would start gagging. So it was not really a great career choice. I was funny though. I, entertained my clients.
Yes, I'm sure the patients loved you. Absolutely. Yeah. So then Timmins brought you to Sweden. So how do you wind up going to Sweden?
Well, my husband was a diamond driller. We started a drilling company in Timmins. So it was really quiet in the industry, and there was a tender that went out from this guy called David Rigg. And he was working for a company called Boliden, and they were looking for drilling companies to come to Sweden to increase the productivity. So I said, if we're the first ones there, we're going to get the contract, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we did. So we packed up and moved to Sweden. We got the contract and we started drilling there.
Wow. And was that your first introduction into kind of mining and stuff? Had your husband always been into this? And was it something you were genuinely interested in, or was it something just because he was doing it that you supported him? Or?
Well, when I first met him, he told me he was a diamond driller. So
you heard diamond.
Yeah, I heard diamonds and I was like, whoa.
Yes.
But unfortunately, yeah, it wasn't that. It was a totally different career choice, a career area that I had no idea about. And I don't think a lot of young people know much about mining, especially in the big cities.
Right. And I think also for women, because I think it's not necessarily a career choice that a young girl would even think about, but now it's becoming more and more common for women to get into mining.
It's, you know what, I am so passionate about the mining industry, and people say, why are you passionate? Because along the line, learning stuff, everything that we deal with in life, for instance, the electricity that comes into our homes, if it wasn't for mining, we wouldn't have it. So people are very quick to criticize and say, well, we're against mining, but it's like, no, we have to work together to make sure that the industry is good. And we need it. So, I mean, you could sit there and say, well, I don't want mining, but then you better not drive a vehicle, you better not use your cell phone or have electricity. live off the grid. That's the only way.
Right. And I guess it's a big education process, right? Because people will only see maybe what's in the news or the media on one angle, as opposed to kind of the whole picture, the whole story, or both sides of the story and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a industry that's filled with amazing people. And, you know, I've had the opportunities of working in Dominican Republic, working and seeing, you know, the people in the local community. The mining company went and bought uniforms for the kids to go to school. Otherwise, they wouldn't have that opportunity. I bought a battery so that the church can have a fan going so that the parishioners can go in. So little things like even buying rice for the schools.
Right, right. Yeah, for sure. So how long was it that you stayed in Sweden, that you lived there, and then what brought you back to Montreal?
Well, we stayed there for 3 years, and it was good, but it started getting busier in Canada. And you know, Canada is the greatest country in the world as far as I'm concerned, and I just wanted to be closer to home. So we came back. We moved back to Quebec, and that was fine. Unfortunately, my kids spoke English and Swedish.
Wow.
So they had to get the French behind them as well.
Right, right. And how long did you stay in? Well, so were your children born in Sweden, or were your...
No, my kids are all born in Timmins.
In Timmins, yeah. Okay. So by the time you came back to Montreal, they're getting a little bit older now.
Yeah, they were older.
Right. And so... you know, you were in Quebec, and all of a sudden you are going to come back to another northern community. So making your way here to Thunder Bay. So what about Thunder Bay brought you here?
Okay, this is going to sound really weird, but I've always loved Thunder Bay. Just the name of it. I've seen the Sleeping Giant on pictures. The fact that you're on Lake Superior in the country. I'm not a big city girl, but I just fell in love with Thunder Bay. Right. And I realized that my kids didn't have enough French in order to have a good career in Montreal. And so I said, you need to get it. Actually, my oldest daughter, she was 16 when she was graduating from high school. She applied for to Lakehead, and she was 16 years old when she got accepted to Lakehead. Yeah. So
she came early and went into university early, still quite young, because a lot of girls are still in high school at that age.
I know in Quebec you graduate when you're around 16, then you go to CEGEP, and then you go into university. So she kind of missed that CEGEP portion.
Right. So you have 3 daughters, and what has that been like for you to have, you know, become a mother, but not just to be a mother, but to have raising 3 daughters in this world?
Well, we've got to be an example. My kids are my life. I ended up, my kids are so ambitious. And one of the things that I find so important is education. So I stress the education portion on it. So Melissa, my oldest one, she's working for INAC right now, and she's doing amazing. She got her master's. So she's going places. Rochelle, my middle one, she got married. She moved to Edmonton. So that kind of broke my heart. And my youngest is at Brock right now. But my youngest one is, I don't like to interfere with them. Like, I don't like to tell them what they should be doing, because they have to figure that out, just like you and I had to figure it out. And we always make mistakes. So I figured out I was going to be a nurse, and I was a lousy nurse. So we make mistakes along our path. She sat there, and I said, well, you got to figure out where you want to go to school. So she went to Lakehead, and she was in business, and it was just not for her. So I said, well, you got to figure out something. And she did. You know, she figured out that she wanted to go into, she wants to be an occupational therapist, and that's her passion. She loves working with the elderly. She loves working with kids with disabilities, and she's really good at it.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And not staying stuck in something that you're not happy in, because that's a big part of your life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back with Barb and talk more about her journey. Welcome back to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and on today's show, we've been interviewing Barbara Elinesky all about her incredible life and her travels. It's kind of brought her all over. So before the break, we were talking about you know, how you got here to Thunder Bay. So you're traveling and you're coming a long ways from Quebec to northwestern Ontario, and you know, with your 3 girls who were 10, 15, and 16 at that time, and something completely unexpected happens.
Yeah, we left Montreal in the morning, I think around 7 o'clock, and then we actually had the kid's grandfather with us because he lives just outside of Hawkesbury. And so we drove, we stopped in at my brother's to say goodbye, and then we drove to Hawkesbury, dropped off Grandpa, and then we were on our road. So we drove we drove till North Bay. So that night we said, oh, you know what, we're tired. It's been a long day. Let's grab a motel. So we had 2 dogs, 2 cats, 3 kids, and my husband and I. So then all of a sudden, that night we ordered supper, the kids were playing, there was a pool, and so we decided, I was burnt because the night before we had to move, so we were up till 3 in the morning, so I was really tired. So I fell asleep at about 9 o'clock, and we had adjacent rooms, but you couldn't, you know, the door in between, we didn't have that in this room because we booked last minute. We tried to go as far as we could go. So we had to go out and into the other room. Anyway, I got woken up about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I heard noises, so I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And I had one of the dogs in the room with us, the older dog, which the dog had cancer and was dying. So we didn't want to put the dog down before the move because we said, oh, it'd be too stressful for the kids. So we brought the dog, so she wasn't in the best of shape. Anyway, I heard the noises. I thought it was the dog. I look over and my husband's taking a massive heart attack. So I immediately start CPR. The nurse comes out and try to help him, and I called to the front desk to tell him I need an ambulance right away. He's having a heart attack. I wasn't sure if it was a heart attack or a seizure. Like, you're in a deep sleep, you wake up, you're just trying to do what you can do, and then he stopped breathing. So yeah, it was like he died in my arms. So that's basically what happened, and yeah, it was just like, you know, these things are not supposed to happen. So yeah.
Well, and he must have still like been so young, you know, you still have
yeah,
young
he was only
children.
47.
Yeah, so like you're not expecting something like that, and here you are, you're picking up your whole family and coming to Thunder Bay to start a whole new life, and you know, what does that look like then? You know, how does life change? It changes like literally
in a second.
In a second. So what did that look like for you? Because here you're picking up and moving your whole family based on his work, and you know, you're coming here and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, do you turn around? Do you keep going? Like, what kind of things were in your mind?
Do you know what? I think you're working on adrenaline, because I remember we had a friend that we were supposed to meet with at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I called him up, and we had the grief from the hospital, like we had the grief counselors come in, and they guided me into what I had to do for funeral arrangements. Like, these are things that you're not thinking. You're
prepared for
in a motel. So it's like you literally should kind of stay at the motel. But am I going to stay in the same room that my husband just died? No. So I just said, I got to get out of here. Like, and I never even thought about going back to Montreal, because that was 8 hours away. That was not that far away. And my family was there, everybody was there, but no, we took the long route. We were moving forward. So me and the kids, we decided that we're just going to move forward. And we had 2 vehicles. So it was myself and my youngest daughter and one of the dogs. And then in the other vehicle was my 2 daughters, Melissa, who just got her driver's license, and she was following me. So then we had to call everybody and tell them what happened. So that was a hard part.
Oh, no kidding. And nobody's going to ever think that that's the kind of news they're going to hear that day.
No, they don't. And, you know, it was just crazy. And when I called everybody about 6 o'clock in the morning, like, you know, his father and his sister and everything else, and my family. And like, again, I never thought of going back to Montreal. So I came, you know, we arrived, we came this way. We had a house that we just bought. We were just moving forward. So at the time we had a contract in Jellicoe. So the guys were staying at a camp, and we drove as far as that camp. So we spent the first night with with the drillers. And that was, you know, very comforting to us. So yeah, and honestly, like, I don't know where our heads were at. We were talking about that one day and we said, why did we go there? Why didn't we go back to Montreal? And why didn't we do this? And we forgot to eat. You know, we were driving, and at one point, I'll never forget this. Whenever you're driving from Hearst to Long Lac, make sure you have a full tank of gas, because my daughter's car was running on fumes. So I'm like, okay, we don't have that far to go, and hopefully we'll be okay. But we made it to Long Lac and we got gas, so it was good.
Right. Yeah, you have enough to already be worried about, let alone those kind of roadside troubles and things like that. So you continue on to Thunder Bay and you start building a life here. And what has that been like? Because you've stayed, and you know, I'm sure there's challenges at the beginning. Oh,
at the beginning, I remember just pulling up to the driveway and the grass was like really high, and we had to cut the grass, and I'm like, here I am in this huge house with 3 daughters. I've got, you know, all this responsibility on me, and what am I going to do? I fell to my knees and I actually cried right on the front grass, and my neighbor comes over and she runs over. She says, hello, welcome to the neighborhood. And she goes, where's your husband?
Oh, no.
And so the kids start crying. I'm just like, you know, he just died yesterday. And it was just crazy. Like, it's like, this isn't real. Like, it was just too weird. Like, this isn't happening. And I remember when the cops came to the room, and I'm like, this isn't happening. This is just a dream. Wake me up. Like, this is, yeah.
Wow. So from there, you decide to stay in the mining industry.
Yeah.
Was it something you already had felt pretty comfortable in? You'd been, you know, doing this with your husband for quite some time, and
yeah, I was doing it with my husband. He taught me a lot. I learned a lot. I still, you know, you learn something new every day. You know, we love a challenge, and one of the things that kept me and the kids going when we got here, it's like, I used to always say, pity breeds weakness. And I remember, because my husband used to work out of town for like 3 months. And when my friends would say to me, oh, poor you, you're alone all the time. And you go, yeah, poor me, and you feel sorry for yourself. It made it worse. So when my friends would say, oh my goodness, you do so well by yourself, look at you. I was like, yeah, do I ever, you know? So I got strength in that. So I didn't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I did what I had to do. And in life, you know what? A mom will always provide for a child, or children.
Right, and building that support network. So you came here and you maybe didn't know very many people, if anyone. Was that easy for you to do, to build that support network and have that encouragement or supportive people or women in your life?
At the time, well, you know, I had my family. That's about it, and I got to meet people. I got to meet a lot of people. I'm not shy, so that helps.
Yes.
But I think I was surrounded by the mining community, and you know, like, I'll never ever forget Don Hoy. I never met Don Hoy, and he's the CEO of Wolfden Resources, and he sent us a big bouquet, and it was just chocolates and candies for the kids, and I was thinking, wow, that was so nice. He was with Free West at the time. And we were looking at doing a contract with him, and I'm like, I can't do any of this stuff. So I was surrounded by the people of the mining industry.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to talk about the mining industry and kind of, you know, your career path in mining when we come right back from the break. Welcome back to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and on today's show, we've been talking with Barbara Elinesky all about her life, and we're talking about, you know, you being in the mining industry, and you know, I think we've discussed that it's not always every woman's career aspiration or something that's maybe the first thing in their mind as they're growing up. Yeah. As a little girl, girls don't usually say, you know, I want to be a miner or whatever. And, you know, you wound up in that industry. So let's talk a little bit about women in mining and what that's been for you as a woman in a male-dominating industry.
Well, Getting into the mining industry is, like I said, they have been my family. I like to put a little twist to it. I joke around a lot. Anybody that knows me, you know, I joke around as much as I can. It's an amazing industry. For a woman to be in it, there was challenges. There was a lot of challenges. And it's tough, you know, like, especially in the drilling industry, like, there's not too many women that are involved as much as I was. It's, you know, everything that you do is dirty, it's heavy, it's greasy, it's tough. Like, I could talk about stuff, you know, drilling, like you're drilling a hole in the ground and the rock that comes out, that's basically what your product is. So explaining how you get that to work is tough. Working with a bunch of drillers is quite the experience. Mm-hmm. They are the toughest guys. Like, you know what I watched the other day was Armageddon, and that's what the guys are like, but they got a heart of gold.
Right. So did you find you were accepted as a woman? So you're not coming alongside of a husband, or, you know, you are there and you are, you know, running things and doing things and all that kind of stuff. Were you accepted in that capacity?
No, it wasn't. And I'm the type of person that is like, I don't care if you accept me or not, I'm here. So it's like, I'm not going to bully my way in, but I'm not going to be, you know. I remember going one time, we were looking at a brand new drill in North Bay. And so we went to see, we got a tour of the facility where they're building the drills and everything else. And the guy was just only talking to my husband. So I was sitting there and they asked me, they go, so what do you think of that salesman? I said, I don't think too much about him. And those weren't actually the words that I said, but I can't say it on TV. So anyway, after that, he started talking to me, and I thought, you know, how sad was that? But when I went to the bathroom, the girls that were in the bathroom go, oh, did you get a job here? And I'm like, no. And it was just, you know, figured that I was working in the office. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I kind of took a lot of people by surprise. It was different. It was hard. Like, I mean, there's times that I've walked into a room in a meeting and the guys all turned their backs to me. I was the only woman there. Wow. But I'll tell you, when I went to Sweden, it was a different story.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot more respect. I think they're a little bit more advanced when it comes to that.
And have you seen changes over the years? Like, I know you're heavily involved with women in mining and really making that headway for more women to be able to be in the industry and to feel safe and to feel confident. And so, you know, has there been changes that's happened, you know, in the time that you've been in the industry, or is it getting better? Is it getting worse?
It's getting better. It's got to get better. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of people with the same old mentality. Now, not too long ago, if a woman went underground, it was considered like bad luck. So all the men would come out.
Really?
Yeah, and that wasn't too long ago. So it's still got a long way to go. And you know, right now, this world has changed so much in the last little while. In the last 6 months, you could see the big pendulum has changed. And it's not, you know, I think women need to be given a chance to do some of the work. Like, even for equipment operators, like, women make better operators because the men are just kind of, you know, rough on the equipment. So the women take more care. These are things where we excel at. Welding is another thing too. And I think we need to look at more women, but it's also got to be a safe environment. Mm-hmm. And when guys have, and guys do, like, guys say, well, this is no place for a woman. And I'm like, why not? You know?
Yeah, safety standards have to be across the board for any person.
It's got to be safe for everybody.
Right. Absolutely. So what are the big things that you really advocate for when it comes to, you know, women working in the industry? What are the things that you really look out for and really want to see change for women?
Well, I want to. Well, one of the things I think that we need to address, which we don't, because the mining industry is tough. It goes up, it goes down. If you're a geologist and you start a family, you've got to be gone for 4 weeks. How do you do that? Does that mean you have to leave your career? That's something that to me is so important, and I don't even know how to address it. but I think that we have to figure out a way of including women with their children in some atmospheres. There's a girl that if you're a woman, you want to go be an engineer and you have a baby, you could bring the baby to the class. I don't know, like something that we could figure out that'll help women, because families are the key to our society. Working with women, we're pretty amazing, you know, and especially in the industry, we need women in the industry. We need to go and have that mother kind of, like, you know, people call me mom. Right. Because sometimes, you know, you've got some guys that are pretty broken out there, and just showing that you care makes a big difference for guys and for women too, you know, and I just want women to be the best person that they can be.
Right. And it happens in a lot of other industries as well, where, you know, whether it's flex time or, you know, certain leaves or things like that, women don't have to choose between their career and being a mother. So really also looking at that in mining as, you know, a reflection of just not men in the workplace, but women and mothers in the workplace as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're almost out of time, but I'm curious as to what the future holds for Barb. Are you status quo, rolling along where you're at, or what's the future hold for Barb?
The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be.
Oh, geez.
But you know what? As long as I can help, I really love working with, you know, the Aboriginal communities and training, and that's one of the things that that was my passion. When one of the guys came up to me and said, for the first time ever, I was able to go out shopping and buy my kids a whole bunch of clothes, and I'm like, that's what it's all about going and you know, taking care of your family. And so doing that, and most of the time, you know, a lot of people have no self-esteem, and it's like, you know, we got to boost them up.
Right.
We got to be kind.
Yes, and empowerment things, which I think that's something that you really do well, Barb, is help empower women and help empower others to be everything that they can be in this world. So thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your wonderful story with us. And I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in today. Be sure to watch next week with more on One Woman.